Good morning, good evening, and welcome to Tub Talk, wherever you are. I am thrilled that you are here. My name is Sydney Waller. I am your host. This is a conversation between you and I on more biblical principles in a worldly industry like the music industry. I am a music industry professional of 9+ years, and I went from being a partier, I guess you could say, doing drugs, drinking, and living in depression, anxiety, PTSD, to knowing Jesus and still operating in that same industry in a completely different way. So it is possible, it is doable. You are not alone in your thoughts, you're not alone in your feelings, and that is why I am here to tell you all of the good news and for us to go through this together in the industry, because it's really hard, because the industry is so worldly and there are so many people who will push you to your limit, and that's not what God wants, regardless if you're a Christian or not. So, with that being said, today's episode and the title of my mini sermon is called Why Your Sobriety is the Key to Your Next Level. Yeah, we're going to get into it. I am always talking out of the Bible, so I'm never not going to refer back to this big book, okay? The Bible is not meant just for people who believe in Jesus. It's meant for you to understand God. So, with that being said, I am going to be in First Peter today talking about the key to your sobriety, all right? So, I'm going to kind of go through this, but I want to always give background as to what we're going over and why it was written, because I think that's really important, and that's honestly what helped me learn the Bible. Because just flipping pages and being like, oh my gosh, they're talking about death, and oh my gosh, they're talking about splitting seas, and you just don't really understand why those things are happening. But I am very analytical when it comes to the Bible and understanding why things are being written and why that person is writing it when they're writing it. Peter wrote First Peter and Second Peter, obviously. His other name is Simon, so don't get that twisted if you ever read that. First Peter was written in Babylon, and it was written around AD 64 to 68. Peter was writing to the Gentiles and telling them to keep their faith, pretty much, because Nero was ruling at that time, and he was kind of on a rampage, like just killing and removing things from Christians, like getting rid of their land and all this other crazy stuff. So Peter's whole point in writing this was to speak to multiple areas of the world that the Bible was written in. A lot of the Bible was written in the Middle East, and so a lot of these discussions are only based in the Middle East. Peter was writing to the foreigners of Pontus, Galatia, Cappadocia, Asia, and Bithynia. I don't want to butcher that, but I totally did. He's writing to multiple groups of people in this and telling them how to live, don't give up, keep your faith type thing. So now we're going to tie this back in with the music industry and your sobriety. I gave you the background, gave you the information as to why it was written, so that way you're not like, well, this isn't for me. It is for you still. And that's the really cool thing about the Bible. This is to learn about God and also learn about yourself equally. You can read it with a split mindset of like, this is how I learn about God, and don't take everything too personally, but also take everything personally in a sense of like, this is how I should be living. So, your sobriety is your key to your next level. I want to remind you that. I am speaking 1 year sober here. I used to do all types of drugs, all types of smoking, all types of alcohol. I loved a good martini, still do. Even though I haven't had one in forever, I would still love a good martini. But that is not a part of who I am, and it's not a part of my identity. And God told me I had to get rid of it to do what I was called to do. And you might have the same conviction, and that's okay. Okay? So in 1 Peter 5:8, one of the translations says, be sober-minded and be watchful. The translation that I have, which is the NLT, says, stay alert, watch out for your young enemy, the devil. He prowls around like a roaring lion looking for someone to devour. Stand firm against him and be strong in your faith. Remember that your family of believers all over the world are going through the same kind of suffering. So, what does Peter mean by that? He means the devil is literally knocking on everyone's door with pornography, sex, drugs, drinking, smoking, lying, cheating, stealing, killing people. He's attacking everybody in different ways with sin. It's not just you. So what I take out of this is you need community more than anything. Like, find other people in the music industry who understand what you're going through and are trying to get sober, who are trying to do the right thing, who aren't participating in those things. And if you can't find those people, I hate to break it to you, but it's time for you to find some new friends. Okay? So, what are we going to do about that? You're going to go looking for some people to hang out with. You can find some online groups. Transformation Church has really great resources and online tribes, which are small groups, if you need a resource. I will be able to link that in the description. But for everything else, guys, I just want to say with this, being sober-minded is super important because it helps you stay alert. If you don't feel conviction from doing bad things and doing drugs and drinking alcohol, you're not going to be alert. You're not going to have any sort of vision. You're going to be following other people's vision. You're going to be asking your managers to do the work for you, to email the venues, to do the this, do the that. And then you are going to be in a place later in your career where you hate everything about it because it's not your vision. And it wasn't the vision that you were given for your project. You are now living in other people's cycles because you're too busy drinking and smoking and having sex and doing all of these things, and you forgot what it means to be a artist. You forgot what it means to be a leader. You forgot what it means to be a boss. You are in charge, not your manager, not your agent, not anybody. They work for you. Remember that. They work for you. So if they're giving you all these ideas, that's great. They do have vision, and sometimes you need clarity, but like, get sober for a week. Doesn't have to be a month. Doesn't have to be, 24 hours isn't long enough. So you need like a week, seriously. And see what you can do in that amount of time. See what you, like, turn off the TV, turn off the music, other people's music, turn off all distractions. Social media, don't post for a week. I don't care what your manager says. I don't care what your agent says. I don't care if you're about to go on tour next week. Shut it off. Have them handle it, and you get back to what is important. Like, lock in, stay alert, get sober-minded for 1 second so that way you can actually see the return on your investment. Get back to your why. Get back to why you started doing your music project in the first place. Like, don't let these people around you control your project. If a record label is offering you a deal and it's requiring you to be more hands-off on your project and give them more creative freedom, no. You don't need to do it either. You need to stay alert, and if you were given a gift and a vision from God, then you are not supposed to be asking anybody else for an opinion except God. Literally. You tell your manager, if they say, hey, there's a really great deal on the table, Capitol Records wants to offer you a 7-album deal for the next 10 years. What do you think about this? You're going to do this many tours, and this is your advance. What are you going to say? I'm going to tell you what you're going to say. You're going to say, thank you so much for the offer. I'm going to go pray about it. That's all you're going to say. And then you're going to go pray about it. And it doesn't matter how long it takes for God to reply to you, because if you're not sober-minded, it's going to take him longer to reply to you, for sure. And on top of that, too, if you're getting record deal opportunities, not every deal opportunity is a good one. I said this in my last episode. Not every deal is a good deal. You're supposed to be a leader. Don't just take the first deal that happens to you either. Like, really pray about it. Make sure that you are on the right path with God first. And because there will be counterfeits. There will be counterfeits, let me tell you. There will be fake opportunities. You need to be able to discern. And the only way you can really do that is with a clear mind. Do not let these people tell you that this deal is the best deal. This is the one that this is the only one you're going to get. Lie. Counterfeit. Do not let them tell you that. Seriously. Okay, I'm getting back to the Bible now. I went off track a little bit. So, if you think this is going to be easy being sober, it's a lie also. That's not true. I don't know who told you that, and being sober is hard. It's also deafening because you're like, oh my gosh, I've been such a crappy person, or whatever trauma you have, that's going to definitely come forward. So just be prepared for that. Like you're going to have to equip yourself with this book, with some other books that are not written by Jesus and all these other disciple people and many, many other amazing people. But you're going to also have to read some current day stuff you can go get at Barnes and Noble. Like, you need to do the work. You need to put in the effort to heal whatever is causing you to run to those drugs and alcohol. Because I sure did. And it was not fun. It took me a long time. So, moving on, okay? We are going to read this other part of First Peter, and then we're going to jump into some reflection questions for you to do at home. Okay? Okay, so this is talking about suffering being a Christian. This is going to be in 1 Peter 4, and it's going to be verse 12 starting off, and then I'll let you know where we finish. But it says, "Dear friends, don't be surprised at the fiery trials you are going through as if something strange were happening to you. Instead, be very glad for these trials. Make you partners of Christ in his suffering, because Jesus died on the cross for you, so that you will have the wonderful joy of seeing his glory when it is revealed to all of the world." So this is Peter being like, yeah, you're gonna suffer really hard. It's not gonna be easy. And he's right, because it's not gonna be easy. I can't say that my first year being sober was like amazing, because it wasn't. It was the hardest year of my life. Was it any harder than the years I was not sober? No, but it was deafening in the way of like, oh my gosh, I've created all these problems for myself, and you don't psychologically realize it until your mind is not empty, but more clear, because you don't have all of the things turning off your frontal lobe and numbing you out. Like you're aware of what mess you've created. And it's okay. Like, I want to let you know it's okay. Like, nobody is perfect, and Jesus would rather you come broken, bruised, and on drugs, which I did. And I realized that he still loved me, and that was the first time I had felt unconditional love in my life. Like, that's okay to have those feelings of guilt and shame. And you're going to feel those things for sure, regardless if you have God in your life or not. You're going to feel guilty for the things you've done to other people, for who you've hurt, for what you've done to your family, yourself, the disconnection you have, all of it. It's going to flow, and you're going to see what mess you've created. So this right here, Peter is saying, you're going to go through trials when you are staying alert and you get sober. Just know that. I highly, highly recommend reading 1 Peter and 2 Peter too. But 1 Peter just really talks about fearing God and respecting him. You know, there is a level of respect, and at some point you're going to have to put the bottle down. Some point you're going to have to put the drugs down and turn to him. And it's not going to be easy. It's going to be really hard, because it's a pattern for you, you know? So it's going to take time. But he goes on to say, if you are insulted because you bear the name of Christ, you will be blessed. So don't think because you're turning a new way also that everybody's going to be okay with it in your life. Your manager might not be okay with it. Your agent might not be okay with it. And they might condemn you, and they might be like, hey, this isn't the right decision. Tell them, hey, thanks, I'm going to pray about it. That's your answer to everything. Hey, thanks, I'm going to pray about it. Because you don't know who's the monitoring spirit and who's actually there to support you until you really start getting down and deep into it. Okay? So, you will be blessed though, for the glorious Spirit of God rests upon you. If you suffer, however, it must not be for murder, stealing, or making trouble, or prying into other people's affairs. So don't gossip. But it's no shame to suffer for being Christian. Praise God for the privilege of being called by his name. For the time has come for judgment, and it must begin with God's household. If the judgment begins with us, what terrible fate awaits those who've never obeyed God's good news? Like, just think, you turning to God is the best decision you could make for your life, because if you don't, and you don't get sober, you're never going to get to your next level that God has called you to. You got this. I'm here for you. Okay, we're moving on to our reflection questions. Okay, so how has sobriety, or the lack of it, affected your career? How has it affected it so far? So I'm gonna repeat that. How has sobriety, or the lack of it, affected your career so far? You're going to write that down and answer it. What might God want to do through your music if you are fully clear-minded and surrendered? That's the second question, okay? So, what might God want to do through your music if you are fully clear-minded and sober? What could you do for the kingdom? What could you do for your friends? What could you do for your family? What could you do for yourself? How much work could you get done if you weren't wasting time and listening instead? Listening's hard. I know that. All right, your action step for the week is you're going to fast one thing. I want you to fast alcohol, weed, pills, social media for 7 days. One of them. Just pick one. Doesn't have to be all of them. Pick one, preferably weed or pills or alcohol or drugs, because that will get you the clearest mind if you're off of those things. So just pick one. And then for 7 days, after you answer those reflection questions, I want you to journal for 7 days on what changes you've had and what clarity you have creatively in that 7 days. And maybe write it in the comments after that too. Like, I would love to see what happened for you in that time period. Seclude yourself and then begin to reintroduce those scenes of where you're getting these things slowly and see how you feel. See if you go pick up at your dealer's house and you feel like crap the next time because you've been sober and you've actually been in your Bible. You've actually been taking the time to work out or do the things you needed to in that 7 days. You're eating right, because we all know if you do and stuff you can't eat right. I used to do it too. It's okay. We're all not perfect here. I always say I'm saved, I'm not soft, and I'm a believer, but that doesn't mean I am not a sinner. Okay? We're all sinners. And I'm not saying I do it anymore, but I did do it at one point, and it's okay. I'm not here to condemn you, but you need to seclude yourself and you need to be sober for 7 days and come back to me and let me know how it went. But this is the end of our Tub Talk. Hope you have a great week and love you very much. I will see you next week.